Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the opening that I played the most in 2024 as black. The Lichess 2024 recap just dropped out, and I checked the opening that I played the most as white. And in my previous video, I talked about it. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the opening that I played the most as black. But before we begin, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, I highly recommend you to hit the subscribe button down below and subscribe to the channel. We are almost hitting the mark of 900 subscribers, so please do that for me so we can continue with the videos. All right, so if you guys have been following the channel for some time now, you probably know that I am an e4 player, but when my opponents play e4, my favorite opening to play against them is the French defense. So that was my most played move as black. When my opponents play the e4 opening, I just go for the French defense, but the specific variation that I played the most was this variation right here, which is the Rubinstein French. So it's a very easy variation in my point of view. There has some complexities in the theory, deep theory level, but I feel like it's one of the easiest ones to kind of get the hang of. And when you have the setup and you know more or less where your pieces go, you're not going to struggle very much because that's pretty much how you play every time. So your pieces are probably going to go for the same squares every game. So it's very easy to know how to play, so you can get a time advantage if you know the line. So your opponent's going to develop the knight here or either here. And what you're going to do here in this position is actually taking the pawn. So when you do that, you're forcing your opponent to recapture with the knight. That's why they moved the knight out in the first place. The idea was to just defend this pawn and recapture just in case. So if the knight is here or here, they're going to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter exactly where white puts the knight. You're going to do the same thing. And from here, you're going to play a very easy setup, which is just moving your knight out. And you're going to play your bishop out and castle short. And then you're going to fianchetto the bishop here on the dark squares, on the light squares, and then pushing the pawn here. You might push the pawn a bit earlier if you want to strike at the center. And this is a very easy setup to remember. You just have to remember more or less where your pieces go. But before developing your knight over here, which is probably going to run into some issues with this check, you're going to develop this knight here first and then the knight here. So in case they take it, you just take back and then you have your knight here. And in case they don't, you just go ahead and take that knight yourself. So that's what can happen in some situations. So you develop your knight to d7 first, and then after white develops their knight, you just develop your knight to f6 now. And now if they take the knight, you just go ahead and take it back with your knight. But if they don't, and they play something like bishop to d3, that happens a lot, now you go ahead and take their knight. And as they take back, you played the knight to f6, which was the first idea in the first place. And now you're hitting this bishop that is undefended, and they have to move that bishop again. So you're not losing a tempo. Your opponent will have to move the bishop again. And now you can follow up with your plan of bishop to e7, castle short. After your opponent castles, you can play b6 and fianchetto the bishop over there. And after, let's say, knight to e5, we can do some other stuff here. It's a little bit different, but I like just going for the c5 move, striking at the center, forcing your opponent to think what they want to do here. If they take, you can just take back with the bishop. You have a very strong bishop pair here, aiming at the king side, very strong and active pieces. Let's say bishop to e2 right here. The queens are staring at each other. You can exchange the queens if you want. You can place your rooks on the open files. And just in case, if your opponent wants to trade, you can take it back. But you have your rooks on opens and semi-open files. Your bishops are monstrous on the diagonals here. Your knight is pretty good and safe in this square. Your king is very safe. I feel like this opening is great for black. And you can start advancing these pawns if you feel like as well. So if your opponent takes, you just take back. You have the file for you. I like this opening a lot. But of course, if your opponent doesn't do the same thing, if they don't go for the same move, you can go ahead and take the knight back. So if they capture your knight, you just take back and you follow the same setup, right? So you develop your bishop, and then after they castle, you just castle as well. They're gonna develop some other pieces, play c3, you just fianchetto, and after they push the pawn, you just play c5, same thing. If they take, you just take back with the bishop. Again, you have the very strong bishop pair here, aiming at the king side. If queen to c2 to run, you know, from this possible queen trade, you can just play h6 to kick that bishop away. And as it moves, you can just centralize your queen and you're forming this very strong battery and you are threatening checkmate in one. Your opponent has to respond to that. Let's say knight to f3 here to block the diagonal. Queen to h5 is renewing the threat here. You now have this bishop aiming here at the knight, and you're just threatening to take this knight. The pawn is going to take back, and then you can take the pawn. If they just go ahead and snap that, you can just go ahead and take the knight. After takes, you take the bishop. And this is a pretty good game. It's a very nice game, probably equal for the time being. Both have some openings, some weaknesses here on the king side, but it's a very equal game. We could go some other moves ahead here, but nothing crazy is going on. It's just a very equal game for both sides. So you can have a very equal game if you play as black and you go for this opening. I like this system very much because it's very simple. And when you play this move, your opponent will be up for choice if they want to take the knight or develop another piece, but you're going to follow up with the exact same plan and playing the same moves, and you're going to have some really good results with this, I promise you. And if you do so, if you play this opening and you have some good results, please don't forget to comment down below and tell me. And of course, if you like the video, leave a like and also subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. And as always, I see you guys in the next one.